All right. Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. Prophet John here. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, so prophecy is coming to pass from prophetess Rosalind Solomon. Years and years ago, she talked about Chicago is going to be filled with military. The military would come into Chicago. It would be a place of basically it would be under some type of martial law in Chicago because of the violence there. Now, this violence in Chicago is orchestrated and basically seed it's sprouted out from the CIA and the FBI and the drug cartels in Mexico. Okay, so back in the days, they would plant. They probably still do it now, but they've been caught so many times on video planting weapons inside of Chicago. Okay, they would put weapons in, and they would put drugs in the alleyways, and they'll put weapons in the alleyways. They would just drop off guns, and the teenagers, the little boys would go pick it up, and they would use the weapons and the ammos and stuff, and they would just start turning on each other and start killing each other, and they started calling themselves 300 and all types of other gangs, and they got so many different gangs in Chicago, but no one seemed to ask themselves, how can a 13-year-old boy have a automatic weapon? Those things cost thousands of dollars, and they're in the hood, impoverished. They don't even have jobs. So people didn't even put two and two together that, okay, the CIA and the FBI are the ones supplying these weapons, and they're dumping them in the streets on purpose late at night, and then the kids are picking it up in the mornings as they walk by to school and things like that. Okay, and people have caught the government for doing this many times, and so Donald Trump is announcing today, or was it yesterday? I don't even know. I think it was yesterday night. He says, "I am announcing a surge of federal law enforcement into American communities plagued by violence, crime." Okay, we'll work every single day to restore public safety, Trump says, okay, in a news conference on protests. Okay, now, of course, one of the first place he's going to go after is Chicago, and he talked about Chicago as well. So Trump is going to make a surge of federal law enforcement into Chicago, and that's the first place he's going to take back with law and order. So he's going to be putting this basically we're talking about martial law here, where federal officers, military, National Guard, or whoever it is going to be walking the streets in Chicago, and there's going to be a ton of military, ton of police enforcement in those areas to stop the crime, basically to force crime to stop. Okay, in these areas, and if it doesn't stop, then the military, he would bring in the complete military in there and just go into martial law and have a curfew in Chicago. There will be probably a 9 p.m. curfew or a 10 p.m. curfew in Chicago, okay? Unless you're at some type of sporting event, right? Unless you're maybe like at a Chicago baseball game or a basketball game, right? And then you can be out a little bit longer, and those are going to be policed. The police will be heavily policed there as well, and you can stay in those stadiums longer. And then once the stadiums come out, you go straight home, right? There's no bars after that or anything like that. And then maybe on the weekends, like for Friday and Saturday, maybe you'll have a curfew of like 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. or something like that for bars and restaurants. Okay, for maybe 1 a.m. bars and restaurants only though. You can't just be hanging outside in Chicago on Friday nights and Saturday nights at 1 a.m. in the morning or 12 a.m. in the morning. There'll be curfews on normalcy activity, but for bars and restaurants, they'll probably say, okay, we'll keep you around like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., but the people must go straight home. There is no walking around Chicago at 1 in the morning and 2 in the morning any longer. So these things are coming. to Chicago and to many of these areas that are heavily violent, and they're all liberal areas. Who knew, right? Who knew that the violent areas in America are all liberals? Who knew? You know? That wouldn't have been that would have been a long shot, wouldn't it? Yeah, right. Okay, so we have these liberal areas in America that are just complete violent. Okay, complete freak shows. That's what they are. Basically, they're a complete freak show. You know, you got freaks everywhere in these areas, man. People that are high on drugs and just absolutely have lost their mental capacity. You got people that are mentally strung out. You got people that are just absolute weirdos, is what they call them. You know, you just got people that are freaks. You got a lot of freaks in these liberal areas, and that's because the devil has basically taken over, and they no longer have normalcy. They don't have a normal mind. They are, you know, they are no longer can think functionable because of drugs and because of their wicked ways. And so there's a lot. I mean, you go to New York, Lord have mercy. You know what I mean? You go to Atlanta, Georgia, or New York or Chicago. It's like, my, what happened to people? And that's what that's what you'll usually say when you get into these areas, because you're gonna see a lot of crazy, freaky things, and people are just absolutely out their mind. You got people that have pierced themselves 1,000 times in their bodies, walking around like normal, like everything is fine. You know what I mean? Like, you got people just doing the craziest things because they're bored, or just because they don't just have the mental capacity anymore. Like, they've lost it. And a lot of people are on opioids and on pills. I mean, a lot of these liberal areas are people are addicted to pills, man. In these areas, it's just crazy. They're either addicted to weed and cocaine and ecstasy, or they're addicted to pills. It's just crazy what these areas have become. But when you're in a liberal area, you expect that. We expect high levels of drugs use, high levels of LGBT, high level of alcohol use and drug and weed use, and just absolutely going crazy, and violence. And this is what we expect in liberal areas. So, you know it's crazy. But you know what's crazy? The Beverly Hills doesn't really have too much violent in that area, and now they're policed very well. That's probably why. But they do have a massive drug problem there, though, in Beverly Hills, that they try to keep undercover because it will make them look bad, right? But Beverly Hills, 90210, all those rich areas in LA have a heavy, heavy, heavy drug and sexual problem in those areas. Pedophilia and is rampant in those areas as well in Hollywood. Pedophilia and drug use is and alcohol abuse is high in those areas. So they might not have a violent issue in those areas because they're policed very well, and those areas have a lot of high expensive houses and things like that. But the drug use is outrageous. The pedophilia and all of the other things are outrageous in those areas, though. So they make it up for the just because they don't have violence. Well, they make it up by drugs and pedophilia, LGBT, and other things that they do in those areas as well. And there's a lot of mental ill people in those areas as well, right? Especially the Hollywood people, right? So this is what happens when you're in the liberal areas, though. You don't hear much about this in the Republican areas, though. There is some Republicans that, yes, they do go crazy in some of these country towns and stuff like that, but my goodness, majority of these people, man, are from liberal areas. And Donald Trump is sick of it, and he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna get my country back, so I'm bringing in federal law enforcement into these areas, and I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna shut these crimes down. I'm gonna shut all this drug use down, and because it's all a mental thing, all the crime, all these actions that are taking place are all start in the mind. So Donald Trump needs to change the mindset of these people. And so you can do it by force. You can let them do it on their own, which they're not going to do, or you can do it by force. And so Donald Trump's coming in by force. Interesting, because we've been waiting on the GI Joe men over there in Iraq to come in by force as well. I wonder if they're going to correlate with each other very soon. I wonder if we're going to see force in Iraq as well. Peace out. God bless. Eyes open, and let's get these areas back, and let's get people back to normal. Let's get people off of drugs, off of alcohol, off of opioids and pills. Let's get people mental states back, and let's get people functioning back as normal human beings instead of all of this violence and all this stupidity. And FBI and CIA, can we stop putting guns into these areas so these people are killing themselves? Can we stop doing that? Okay, I don't know why you were doing that in the first place, and many people that were doing that should be in federal prison. But anyways, peace out. God bless. Eyes open. Bye.